Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Tom Wells here. Today is Friday, August the 3rd, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for this beautiful Friday, and we hope your Friday's off to a great start. I have to say, this morning I didn't wake up in the best frame of mind, but Tom and I were just talking, and I realized, you know what, there's really good news this morning. I woke up this morning. That's the good news. My life continues. I get to go do some more stuff. I get to have more fun. I get to get myself into the frame of mind I want to be in. I get to take control. I get to decide what my emotional reaction is going to be. There's a whole lot of good stuff going on this morning. I just have to remind myself of it. So, Tom, how's your morning going?
Well, you know, I'm looking forward to being in the receptive mode all day long. I'm going to try a little experiment today.
Ah, okay. That's where today's title comes from the receptive mode to the momentum of manifesting, which is an interesting title. I mean, I didn't really talk about it much with you. Actually, I didn't even bring it up at all as we're getting ready to do the podcast. But right. I mean, that's one of those Quizgle titles. Like, what does that mean anyway?
Yeah, right. Well, that's why I wrote a long explanation. But the whole idea is to entice listeners to want to listen to the podcast.
I see. This is marketing. Oh, okay. All right.
No, it's just that this is the way my mind was working last night. It was just flowing that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what exactly does it mean anyway?
What the heck does that mean? Well,
I asked you first.
Well, that's what I like about this podcast, Walt, is that I can put whatever I want up there and just have you explain it. Because you're so willing to, and you're good at it. Yeah, you'll explain it, even though you just heard it for the first time. No,
I'll just type WTF. That's all. I'm done.
Yeah. You don't like acronyms, do you?
That was the other topic for this morning. Just to clue listeners in, I went off on a little rant on a Facebook post because this person they were asking for some help, but their request was a little bit vague, and then they included an acronym, and I had no idea what the acronym was. It was RSA, and as far as I know, RSA is a form of encryption, which has nothing to do with it. And I actually did a lookup on it and all the different other kinds of things like random shark attack. No, that doesn't seem to match up. And there were a bunch of others, and none of them matched up. And I'm thinking, what the hell is RSA? Please just type out what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, it's probably receptive smartass.
Oh, that's funny.
That's for our show.
Okay.
You know, I'm the receptive smartass. No, that's what this show is all about, is like being in the receptive mode. Well, the receptive mode, it's interesting because I was looking into some of it with Abraham stuff, and the understanding that I like is that you're always in the receptive mode. And so, you know, here's this big thing with the law of attraction is how do I get in the receptive mode so I can let what's in my vortex come to me? Well, that is the question, but we are always in the receptive mode because we're always getting something. So you might be receptive to your own sadness or your own eagerness or your own vulnerability or your own eager anticipation, like I just said. But the thing is that there is always this going on, and the question is, are we receptive to the things we want, or are we just continually being receptive to some line we've got going within ourselves, some mood that is actually not bringing us what we want? And so when I said I was going to do an experiment today, there's a little experiment where you can say, well, what's something I would like to be receiving from my vortex? You know, what's something that does feel good to me that I would like to have more of in my life? Like, I'm working on this big project, as I've mentioned recently, to create this group coaching program, right, these modules that I'm going to present. And I realize that I can think that it's difficult to create it, or I can say, well, what's something that's fun about it? What's something that I like about creating this thing? And then just, you know, look at that and play with it and let it expand. You know, let it come to me from my receptive mode. Let the momentum develop around just the fact that I put some attention to it. I just put some time into it and I play with it. You know, what's fun about it? And of course you could do that about anything. You know, I could say, you know, okay, this day I'm going to put my focus on being in nature, and I'm going to forget about everything else today, put all my focus on being in nature. And if I go do that, I'll create a whole day around that. I'll get my backpack on, I'll get my, my hiking shoes, and I'll go, and I'll have an incredible day. I did that the other day, actually. I went up and spent like 4 hours, but
Nice.
But at the time, I wasn't thinking I was going to the mountains that day at all. But when it came down to it, I got in this mood where I knew that if I went to the mountains, I was going to alter my state, and I really wanted to alter my state. And after doing all that, I was a changed person. It was really fantastic.
Well,
And
that's a fine thing, basically, what you did there, because you knew that you needed to get into a better feeling place, and whatever steps you were taking to do that mentally by themselves weren't working. So you took some action that was in good correlation, good alignment, so to speak, with getting into that good feeling state. Something that you knew that you enjoyed doing. I mean, that was a smart thing to do.
I thought of staying in my place, and thought of the different things I could work on, different things I could read, something I could watch, on the internet. But then none of it felt good when I thought about any of it. And then I said, well, what feels good when I think about it? And it was like, go up to the foothills and sit in the trees, go hang out on the rocks, go on a long walk. And when I thought about that, and later when I got back, I realized how creative it was, like you just said, to use my time that way. Because it really gave me this huge period of breathing room, you might say, from my own mental box that I put myself in sometimes when I'm just working from my office and I'm trying to create, but it seems like there's inertia. It seems difficult. I don't have the momentum. How do I open that momentum to flow? There's a beautiful thing about what's in our vortex is that I was looking this up, and the understanding that your momentum that you want about having the life you want is already built in to the thing you want. So in a sense, your momentum is already in your vortex. And what you need to do is just open up to something that you want with some joy around it, some ease, some fun, some relaxation, and you just open up to it, start playing with it, and a momentum will come along with it. And you will find yourself on a roll a lot quicker than you thought. Once you give yourself permission to do something enjoyable. It's just like going in the mountains. And as soon as I'm up there and I'm starting on my walk, I've immediately got things I can focus on that take my mind exactly where I want my mind to go, which is into ease and beauty and allowing, and because I'm just walking amongst all these rocks and trees, and it's a beautiful place.
Well, you're doing more than that. You're also absorbing the energy of the day, so to speak. You're absorbing the positive feeling of it that you associate with being out in nature among the rocks and all that. Because you found that that's a good way to restore your energy, to get yourself into a better feeling place. I was noticing, I told you this about, before the podcast. I saw a post on Facebook, one of the law of attraction groups. There was a guy or a woman, I'm not sure which, who posted, "I am upset." That was the entire post. I am upset. No request for help. No question. No. Here's what I think I'm going to do. Just I am upset. And it became really obvious to me. Well, this person wants a pity party. Let's everybody pity me because I'm so upset. And so I responded with, well, congratulations. I mean, is that what you want? And if not, why don't you change your focus? And the person wrote back, well, I don't even know why I'm upset. No, please, I want to have my pity party. Why are you getting in the way of my pity party? And it demonstrates that there are some people who just don't really want to accept responsibility for how they're feeling. It's like they want mommy and daddy around all the time. They may be 35, but they still want mommy and daddy around. They want mommy and daddy to pick them up and coddle them and say, oh, everything's going to be okay and all that. They don't want to have to say, you know what, it's up to me to make my life good. And the sad part is they don't, until they learn that, until they realize, yeah, it is up to you, they're going to continue to be frustrated. They're going to continue to be upset. They're going to continue to have all these reactions they don't even know why they're having. I mean, this person didn't even understand why they were feeling that way. He said so himself. I don't understand why I feel this way. And he's going to continue to. Why? Because he doesn't want to accept any responsibility. He doesn't want to say, it's up to me to feel better. But here's the good news. Once you actually decide that it's up to you to feel better, hey, guess what? We can actually make ourselves feel better, and we don't have to have mommy or daddy to do it for us. Boy, is that empowering.
And we don't have to know the whole answer. We only have to have pieces of it. Like when I look at my project to create my group coaching program, I don't know how the whole thing has to unfold, because it's a big project, and so it's got many pieces. But I realize that all I have to do is find one piece that I like and get started with that. And if I can enjoy working on that one piece, the other things will come from that one piece. Maybe it's like that thing that Abraham says that if you have 9 things that aren't working and one thing that is, and you put your focus on the one thing that is, you can pull up all the other 9 things in your life that you feel bummed out about can all transform just by you being happy about one thing.
Isn't that cool? I love that.
Yeah.
I love the fact that one thing can have that much power.
We need to prove that to ourselves.
Well, we do. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're right. And I was interrupting you too, so you go ahead.
Oh, no, I like interrupting you.
Oh, you like it? Oh, okay. Bit of a masochist there. Okay.
No, okay. But isn't that interesting that and another really cool factor, which maybe relates a little bit to what you're reading on Facebook for the different people post in these forums, is that the biggest thing that stops us from having the life we want is what we think other people think of us. And that then we also, what we think of ourselves and the fact that we really deserve to have it that work out that well. We talked about this last podcast a lot, but that worthiness issue, like, do we think we have to justify the fact that we want to have fun? It's just like me going to the mountains instead of staying in my condo working on my project. And yet, if I was trying to answer to a boss, my boss wouldn't say, yeah, go ahead and go to the mountains for 4 hours. Maybe if they were an enlightened boss, they would. But most bosses are going to say, get your ass in the chair and come, report to me, in 3 hours. I want to see this done, get it done, and then you get all this uninspired stuff out of people because they're really not inspired. They're not following their bliss. They're following, their duty to do something or the expectation that somebody else has of them. And this whole thing of doing what we love and following our own bliss, it's this game. How does that happen? How do you let what's in your vortex come to you that you're so much in the receptive mode? And it's interesting that, well, maybe you just find one piece and see what you can do with that. So I challenge everybody listening to this podcast, pick one thing, today, if it's, the beginning of the day or middle of the day, pick something that you want that's small, something that you want to see happen, and focus on it, and just put your focus on there so much that see where you're at by the end of the day. See what happened with that thing. If you kept putting your focus on it throughout the day and it was fun and it was easy, but you kept bringing your focus back to it, and the idea is that you will see that thing come about.
Yeah. Well, that's an empowering idea, and it is also a little daunting for someone who's not used to doing it. I mean, right. if you're not used to being in that mode, somewhere. Well, you do. You have to start, and that's probably the trick right there. How do you do it? How do you get started? You just start. You just you take a step. You take some action to get yourself into a better feeling place, or you just get yourself into the better feeling place and take action. It almost doesn't matter what order you do it in. The important thing is you're doing whatever it takes to get to some place that's better feeling than where you are right now.
Right. And one way to get there is to ask yourself, what's truly satisfying to me in my life? What's something that is truly satisfying to me?
Right. Yeah.
And then go and do some of that. Start doing some of those things that are truly satisfying. So if, like for me, it was not totally logical to drop everything I'm doing and just immediately drive 15 minutes into the mountains and park somewhere and get out and start walking on trails. But I knew that if I did that, I was going to have a really good next 4 or 5 hours, and I didn't think about it beyond that. I just felt I'm going to go up there and allow myself to have a really good feeling experience. But that helps my business a lot. That teaches me the very thing I'm trying to teach other people in my coaching. How do you get yourself into a good feeling place? And well, what do you enjoy? What's really I'm actually really at that point right now in my life where I literally want to get out a notebook and start writing down a bunch of things that I really do enjoy. What is truly satisfying to me?
That's a good practice. That's a really good practice.
And do more of that stuff, you know?
Well, not just writing it down, but doing it. But just the act of writing it down, that alone, especially if you have not kind of worked through in your mind what those things are, so that they're kind of available at your fingertips, writing them down like that is a really good way to start. I mean, I said a moment ago, how do you start? Well, you just start. That's a good way to do it. Just sit down and start. It takes some thought, takes some pondering to come up with it, but come up with a list of like 5 or 10 things that you enjoy, that are just fun for you, that just feel good, that lift you up. Write them down, because when you write them down, especially when you haven't done that before, what I found is that it helped me to feel better just seeing the list. Just seeing the list of things because up until that point, I remember I couldn't think of anything that made me feel good at that particular point in time when I first started doing that. And this was a number of years ago, but I just couldn't find anything that felt good. And yet by sitting myself down and just kind of requiring myself, make a list of at least 5 things that I enjoy. It took me a while. Probably took me 15, 20 minutes to come up with them the first time. But I did, and I wrote them down, and when I saw them listed one after another, all of a sudden it was like the ice started to break. You know what I mean? It's like the depression just started to dissolve a little tiny bit. And then I noticed that, and I liked the result, so I put in a little more time and came up with 2 or 3 more items. And then I took a break because I was kind of tired and came back later on and put a couple more items. And after a while, I had a whole list of things that I enjoyed doing. And I said, well, why was that so difficult? But on the other hand, look, I got this great list. I've got this list of things. I could actually do some of these today. I could do some of them right now, actually. Because there were a number of things on my list that didn't cost any money. They didn't really require a whole lot of time. I really could have had time to do them right now. And so that's what I did. I started to do the things I could do right now. And very soon, like within an hour, all of a sudden there was one thing that was on the list that would be free, but it would take me quite a bit of time to do, and I knew I would enjoy it. So all of a sudden I got the impetus to do this thing that I'd been putting off for months, even years, just because I had it down on paper. And so when people wonder why it is you write it down on paper, it's because it helps you. Right? It helps you to refocus on something that perhaps you haven't focused on in a long time, stuff that feels good to you.
Yeah, and where you put your focus is going to determine what comes next and next and next. So It's that 17-second rule that focus on something that feels good for 17 seconds, and you're going to attract a similar feeling, a similar thought will come and will build and do that for a minute, and you've got momentum going. But the beautiful thing is that, anything that we do that is enjoyable and satisfying and fun and feels good and relaxing and chill is going to have attached to it the power that creates worlds. And so, we've got source energy that wants to give us the life we want. And it's just waiting for us to get into a good feeling place. And then that whole string of good feeling things can start to flow to us. And that's that idea that the momentum is already there. It's already in your vortex. So momentum for something that you've been wishing that you had, something that you've been wishing could manifest in your life. You don't have to be the one, because there's that sense, well, I'll write it down, but so what? There it is on paper. Has that changed my mood? And the thing is, well, it can change your mood if you get into it a little bit and let it build. The momentum will start to come to you. You won't have to be the one that manufactures momentum. That's an interesting thought, that that if I go to the mountains and I feel bummed out when I get there, but I start walking, there'll be a momentum that can build if I just start noticing things I love. I start noticing how beautiful the trees are, and I love the patterns of the clouds in the sky, and I love the feeling of the sun on my face, or whatever it is. I love just walking, the feeling of walking. And all that stuff builds on itself, and there's a natural momentum there. And before long, I'm just in the spell of the woods. I went to this one place, sat in this meadow, this open area, and it was so still. There wasn't anything moving. There wasn't a single bit of wind. And I just was in this place where I dropped into my heart, and I felt just this immense, like power of the stillness. It's like really incredibly, every blade of grass, and a lot of the grasses are like 2 or 3 feet high, and then there's, just all these trees and these thousands of little needles on every tree, and they're all reaching out into the sky for the moisture and for the air. And I don't know, it was just this feeling of, I don't really want to do anything. I just want to receive. There's this Lao Tzu thing from the Tao Te Ching where, Lao Tzu says, the wise man does nothing, yet nothing remains undone. And it reminds me of letting yourself have what's in the vortex. You letting yourself have everything you want in your life is by you really just get into this place of receiving, and you're not trying to make it happen. You're letting it happen. You're letting the natural momentum of the power that creates the universe work on your side by just trusting so much that if I'm in a good feeling place and I follow the next best feeling thing and the next best feeling thing and the next best feeling thing, I will unfold my life. It will unfold for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you're talking about is someone who desperately wants something to happen and is very strongly motivated about it and is focused on it, maybe not always in the most healthy way, but it's become an obsession for them. And when you're in that kind of a place, then that's when really it's important to become a practicer of receiving. That's really what the message is that you're giving, and it's a great message. It's 100% true. I'm also thinking about the person who said, well, I feel upset. That wasn't a person who was looking for any particular thing. That was just a person who was looking to, be coddled or whatever. And in fact, while you were talking, I was looking at the Facebook to see if anything had been added to it. And sure enough, it had. The person had written back to me, thank you for your advice. I'm going to give that a try. And as soon as he said that, I mean, because I'm visualizing, I'm envisioning this person who is just not wanting to do anything, right? And finally he says, well, I'll give that a try. And the first thought that came to my mind was Yoda from Star Wars saying, no, do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah.
So it depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from a place where you are focused on, you're so heavily focused and even attached to an outcome, then that's when it's really important to go into receptive mode and just go into relaxed mode like you did. I mean, going up and just enjoying the stillness and so forth. That was a great thing to do. But on the other hand, if you're somebody who's just kind of stuck on, I can't even accept responsibility for what I'm feeling. I want somebody else to do all my thing for me. I don't want to have to deal with myself. That's a person who needs to take some action. And I think that's really what the differentiator is. It's knowing which spot you're in. Are you in a spot where you need to be practicing receiving, or are you in a spot where you need to be taking steps?
Yeah, I can see that. I can say and I see that receptivity is always called for, right? I mean, in one way or the other, you've got to be receptive to your own, to the openness to be in action. I mean, action comes from the feeling comes first. Like the willingness maybe of that person to open their heart to the fact that they could have a better feeling life. And then, being open to that and getting some feeling about it then gives them the impetus to do some action. But I mean, does that person actually need action? or do they need to just chill out and realize that everything is okay?
Probably a combination of both, I would think.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're in the habit of looking to everybody else to even understand your own feelings, let alone do anything else, you've basically put yourself into a helpless position. You defined yourself as a victim, you know?
Well, mm-hmm.
And when
you're taking action by asking for help.
Yeah, why not ask yourself for help? You know, put the message into your own inner being. You know?
Oh, for sure. I mean, ultimately, that's the only place you can really get the help.
True.
I mean, you could talk to a psychologist, a therapist all day long and not get anything out of it. If you realize it's you that's got to make the changes. It's you that's got to change your mood, your attitude, your openness, your receptivity. But I'm just amazed how much everything does come down to it's the feeling. It's the feeling. It's the feeling.
Oh, it is.
And that's when you're in that feeling, that's where the manifestations begin to take place. Yep. That's where the momentum builds. When we get in, do you want to be in that place of feeling lost, or do you want to feel in the place of feeling found? Do you want to be in the place of feeling confused, or do you want to be in the place of feeling clarity? Mm-hmm. And so, but yes, I feel like I have to ask. I mean, when I'm feeling, some of the times over the last week, since last Monday, I have felt trapped by my own lack of clarity. And I've been begging, for clarity in some of the things I've been going through. And I feel like it ultimately comes down to I think that clarity really began when I finally got out my notebook and I started to write things. I started to write to myself, what is it that I do know about what's working in my life? Where do I have clarity? And what is it that I know about going forward that I want? Like, for example, in my relationship, I can talk about the things that are throwing me for a loop, and I can also write about the things that are working fantastically. And so it's true in my business. I can talk about the things that I know I really want to develop in my new group coaching program that really excite me, or I could be in this mood where I feel this is really hard. I don't know how to do it. This is a great big project that's got so many pieces. Where do I begin? And then end up doing nothing. So by getting myself into the belief that I do know some aspects of this, and knowing any of those aspects and feeling excited about them, to me, that's the thread I've got to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the thread of a little bit of excitement here, a little bit of excitement there, and how can I get into that in a way that then the momentum will begin to open up, and I'll stick with it.
Yeah, it's true. That's what happens. The momentum does open up. The even just focusing on a couple of things, 2 or 3, 4 things that feel good, and doing them in relatively rapid succession, it does a lot to change our mindsets. Just doing that alone, it's actually a very good tool to use something like that. And
do you do that a lot?
Well, yeah. I mean, my favorite way to combine things together is to listen to positive music while I walk. 2 of my favorite activities. Well, I do them together. So it's not just in sequence; it's actually combined at the same moment in time, and it just doubles the effect. I mean, I was doing that yesterday, and I was doing it on a day where I was out on a walk, on a day where one of my feet had been giving me a little bit of trouble and was uncomfortable. I mean, it wasn't in distress or anything like that. I just felt uncomfortable, a little bit painful, not really bad, but enough to, normally if I just kept focusing on that, it would undermine my ability to enjoy the walk. But I knew I needed to get out there, and I knew that the weather was beautiful for a walk. So, I was out there, and then I was also listening to the music. And that combination of the music and the walk helped me to basically overcome the discomfort in my foot to the point where I think about 3/4 of the way through, I didn't even notice the foot at all. Huh. Which shows just how powerful it is to focus on 2 things that you really like all at the same time.
Yeah. I had a big transformation that happened. I was telling this person I was talking to about how I'm working to overcome a really strong tightness of my psoas muscle. I've talked about this before, on my right side of my body, the inner muscle that causes us to bend our bodies. It's a very strong muscle. And on the right side, it seems like it's gotten overdeveloped in me. And so I was talking to this woman and I was telling her, well, the way that I work with it, because she was asking me, I said, I basically tell the muscle on my other side to help balance out the one that's overly tight, and then I tell the one that's overly tight, it doesn't need to work so hard anymore. I know I overworked you for most of my life, but no, you no longer have to work so hard. I want you to start relaxing, and I want the one on my left side to start taking more on of that effort that the one on my right side's been making. I know this sounds sort of hard to follow, maybe.
Well, it sounds to me like you're trying to convince your body to stop walking on a diagonal, which is a good idea.
Exactly. Right, because I literally list to the right, and on most of my hikes and walks, I have to stop as many as 5 or 10 times to do certain stretches to try to get my right side to not be so tight. Mm-hmm. And it also can get painful, and then it throws off my knee, it throws off my ankle, it throws off my shoulder.
All the stuff connects.
Because the psoas is so strong too. And so I told this woman this, right? And I said it very authoritatively to her, that this is how I am taking care of this. I'm taking care of it by talking to my muscles, not by going to a bodywork therapist, which is fine, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to spend the money. And I have gone to therapists. I've done Rolfing and different things for it. But I said, I know this is mental emotional. And so I want to take care of it by using my mind and my emotions. So I told her this, right? Then I go on the next thing I did that day is I went on that hike I told you about at the beginning of the podcast. And it was very interesting because I realized walking down out of the mountains after I'd walked a couple of miles that my left side was giving me pain for the first time in age. I can't remember the last time in my whole life when my left side gave me pain. It's always my right side. And now my left side was giving me pain. And I said to it, oh, you're taking on some of the right side. And I literally, on that walk, never had to stop and stretch my right side.
Oh, no kidding.
I literally had to stop and stretch my left side.
Wow.
It's the first walk I can remember in a long time. And I came home just feeling no pain on my right side.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, I said this so authoritatively to that woman that I think I gave my own internal message really clearly to my body that that I am changing this dynamic. I am changing. Because that's how I said it to her. I said, well, this is how I take care of things. I do it. I change my mental attitude,
Well, you
I
did.
changed the messages, and I did.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because I felt sort of sorry for the left side. I said, oh, now it's hurting because it's actually doing more of the work that it hasn't been doing, maybe, because it's been letting the right side do it all.
Well, it's almost like you gave yourself an order. I mean, not quite, but that's kind of like it's like you gave your left side an order, like, okay, time for you to shake up.
I gave the universe an order, yeah, right.
Okay,
but through my body, yeah, right.
Yeah. And in the process, you end up with a wonderful experience as a result, because now all of a sudden you weren't listening to the side like the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Right. You see these old people, and you wonder how come that guy is so messed up. And you said, well, it's a lifetime of that stuff, and you finally end up that way when you're 80, 90 years old. You can. I don't know.
Isn't it interesting how our thought processes, though, drive all this? Because that's how you got there in the first place, I'm sure. Your thought process in various ways reinforced the idea that the right side of your body had to provide all the support. And so it did.
Well, yeah. I realize the thoughts behind it are the thoughts that life is hard. I have to bear down. I have to really make huge effort, because this is how I used it. I was working as a laborer in my college years to get through college, and I would build houses, and I would dig the foundations, and I would carry all these big giant boards in order to, pour the concrete, and it was a massive amount of physical effort. And I remember I was like 18, 17, but I was using my right side all the time for all the shoveling and all the lifting, and I just remember how I relied so totally on everything I picked up and every shovelful my right side did the work. In my
Mm-hmm.
right side, because that's how I did my work. I was right-handed, I guess, and that's why. But then I've used that throughout my life for all my snow shoveling, all my raking, all my vacuuming, all my lifting. And I had a job for 27 years where I lifted boxes of books constantly. So you have to go down to the floor, pick up a 50-pound box of books and get it up to the level of my car, because I would move these books all around. And it was a great job, but took a lot of physical effort.
Right.
And so anyway, I realized that the dominant overriding thought that I've had about my life during all those years was life is hard. If you want results, you work really hard for them, and you have to physically pay a price. For some reason, I got that really in my makeup. You have to physically pay a price of struggle. And if you're good at that and you're strong and you keep going and you make that effort, you will succeed. Your lawn will look good. The vacuuming will be done. The snow will be shoveled. The trenches will be dug, and you'll get your paycheck and everything will work out. And
it reminds me.
Go ahead.
Your story is a great story, and it reminds me of a situation that happened just a couple months ago in Major League Baseball. They have an annual draft, like many pro sports, team type sports have, where the available players are drafted in order by the teams involved, and whoever drafts them has the right to negotiate exclusively with that player to sign them to a contract. Well, there was one player who was drafted by New York this year who had an amazing ability. He has the ability, first of all, he can hit from both sides of the plate, right-handed and left-handed, and he can hit home runs, and he can hit for average. He's a very good hitter both ways, and he can pitch with both hands. He can throw 90 miles per hour plus with both hands and with accuracy. Really cool. So he's 100% completely ambidextrous on both offense and defense in baseball, which is incredibly unusual. And what's really fascinating about his story is he was interviewed very shortly after he got drafted, and his story was, I thought everybody was like this. It wasn't until I got into Little League that I found out that most players are restricted on one side. They can only do it on one side.
Oh, so he didn't develop it. He just was that way.
It was just that. For him, it was just a normal way of being. And I think this kind of feeds into what you were talking about, how there is an expectation that we all get. We all get this expectation. You're supposed to work hard, right? You're supposed to apply yourself. You're supposed to try. You strive really hard and so forth, and then you'll succeed in life. And because of that, people try to restrict how they're going to try because they figure that gives them the best shot. So like in your case, you worked the right side because that was your stronger side. That was your dominant side. So you just worked that side of it. And similarly in a sport, most, not all, but like 85% of all athletes are right-handed as opposed to left-handed. So they'll dominantly play whatever the sport is with their right side. And the 15% who are left-handed will play with their left side. I really do believe that ambidextrous is probably our normal way of being until we're told, to push it, push yourself, push. I mean, that's my theory. I don't know for sure, but it seems reasonable to me because I know everybody gets that. It's not like anybody is immune from that message.
Yeah, and so what's the greater message in being in this pushing stuff, And I think for me, at this point in my life, it's like, look at the price I paid to have pushed so hard. And the only thing I'm trying to learn now in my life is the power of relaxation and the power of balance, of being at ease, and seeing how do things work when I let them be natural and easy and I flow with things. And I guess it's always available to all of us, even if we're working a job for a boss, there's still ways to find our ease, to find our flow, to find ways that, how does this work for me? All of our human relationships, everything, there's a path of least resistance that we can follow. And from that path of least resistance, things just open up for us. Things start to work out the way they need to work out. Like today, my dedication is to find a way to be easy about developing my business. And so it means that I just look for the threads that feel easy to start pulling on, and I'll follow this thread and follow that thread. And before long, I'll have something that feels like I've made progress on developing my program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the only thing I want to present to my clients is something that feels wonderful, that feels like they could do it too. And that that everything that I present opens up the possibility of people having successful lives in whatever way that they're struggling, that they realize I can let go of my struggle. I can be more easy, and the universe itself will do this for me. That I've got this wonderful power of the universe behind my back, and I'm just trying to find how to just be in the flow of it.
Mm. Yeah, and that's it. Being in the flow. That's really where we want to be, because when we're in the flow, first of all, we're getting the energy we want. And that probably is the one thing we crave more than anything else: having energy, feeling energetic.
Yeah, feeling an inspiration. And energetic, right?
All that
enthusiasm,
stuff.
right?
Yep. So, and in fact, the way that I think almost everybody goes through life is trying to figure out where they're going to get their energy from, and then getting it there. That's how you end up with everything from people who are self-sufficient and successful and are able to just they've learned how to generate their own energy. They've learned how to go within. To people who are the dependent ones, the guys who post "I am upset" and expects everybody else to make them feel better, because they don't know how to get their own energy. They don't know how to generate it themselves. They've never developed that skill, so to speak. And it's what makes all the difference in the world: being able to develop and continuously have your flow of energy. So I think that's what we're talking about here. All of this stuff is really about, where's my energy going to come from, and what can I do to get it? Because once you have that, once you know where your energy comes from, particularly when things aren't going right, well, then it's easy. You just go to where your energy is, and all of a sudden things start going right.
Yes. And things that you feel confused about, because that's what I've been dealing with this whole week, is confusion and lack of clarity. And to find that place where the clarity can flow in, it's interesting how it does come from being easier about things, because I can put my focus on the thing that I think is the problem in any situation, whether it's to deal with creating my business or creating my relationship. And I can put the focus on the things that seem like the problems because they seem so big at times. But really, I want to do the opposite. I really want to put my focus on what are the little pieces that are working here, and how can I amplify them? How can I notice them? How can I appreciate them? And then, watch the energy take care of itself, because I took care of my own sense of enjoyment. I somehow found a way to get out of this angst about, oh, this is hard and this is difficult and I don't know what to do and it's confusing and I feel trapped, and I feel, like in the relationship, I get in this place where I feel like, I can't let myself have it because I feel threatened by the things that I think aren't going to work out. And yet, excuse me, I want to let the things that I love about it be there. I want to have all the good things. And so it's like, how do I just be in that place of ease about it, where I can let myself have the good things and take my focus off the things that I think are troubling, and I'll quit projecting fear into the future, and I'll just be with the moment, the present moment, and have enough faith that things are going to work out, that somehow it is going to work out. And it's same with my business, like I will end up with this group program and it will be successful. And how will I follow that thread of ease about the whole thing and not project those feelings of difficulty and impossibility and, the fear of it not working out, which then gets tied to my fear. Well, then I won't have enough money and then I won't succeed and I'll end up like this and I'll end up like that.
And ultimately, all these fears, and any fear really, other than the fear that is involved because a mountain lion is chasing you right now and you have to climb a tree or hide in a cave or something. But other than that kind of a situation where you have an imminent danger, all fear is really, when you come down to it, a cry for energy. It's a cry for empowerment. It's a cry for, I want to feel more empowered of my life. I want to stop feeling like I'm a victim to everything that happens around me.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, so really, what we're saying is, when I'm feeling fear, I need to know what my energy source is, and I need to know where to go find it, and then I need to actually actively go find it, or go within to find it, or whatever it takes to get there. You know, because when you have that energy flowing again, what that really means is you're allowing, right? Because energy flowing, that's source energy, right? So every time that source energy is flowing, you're in allowing mode.
Yeah. And there's literally a place where we feel it shift, I believe. I mean, I've noticed that a lot. There's this place where, well, like if I'm bummed out and I'm worried about something not working out, and I'm just sort of in that mood, I'm in that place. That's my receptive mode. I'm receptive to it not working out. I'm receptive to, how difficult it is, and I'm letting that in. And then, but I'm not wanting to be in that place. And then I begin to do some journaling and work with it. There is this place, I've been noticing it this week, where all of a sudden I feel ease and I feel some relief from the angst that I've developed, that I've been believing so much in the fact that I'm confused and that I lack clarity, and then it's sort of a feeling in my body of ill at ease and unsettled and worried. And then once I get into a place where I really start to notice what is working, like getting out the appreciation journal and you start writing the things that are working in your life, there can be a shift. There's a noticeable point I found with me where I all of a sudden feel like, oh, okay, I know everything's going to be okay. Or I know now I'm in that energy, like you're calling it energy. And that's what I'm addressing, is that there is this energy feeling that I get into where suddenly I know that I'm in the right energy. This is the energy that will lead me in the right direction.
And because why? Because it feels good, right? That's how you know.
It feels good. Yeah. Something shifts in me and it feels better. And once it starts to feel better, then I know this is more going to lead me in the right direction. I mean, when I was confused and feeling lost and I went up into the mountains, it took me sitting up there for a long time, and I had a long conversation with my partner on the phone, but I got to the place where I felt so much relief. But it's a shift, it's a shift that literally takes place inside of me. And I didn't maintain it. Actually, when I came back, I was still feeling the angst, and so it's been going on all week, but I've been working with it to find that place where I feel relief. And I feel like I'm being successful because I'm identifying with the pieces that are working. And I know that those pieces that are working are what are leading me in the momentum and the direction that I want to go.
Well, this certainly reinforces what Abraham talks about, right? Because Abraham talks about how relief is the emotion that you feel when you are moving toward a more positive place and when you release the various resistances you carry around. That's relief. And as we talk about this, it becomes really evident to me, the reason we feel the relief is because the energy is flowing again. The reason we're feeling better is because the energy is flowing again. The reason we're feeling miserable or fearful or doubtful or scared or unsure or whatever is because we have somehow pinched off the energy with our thought processes. I mean, what Abraham talks about really starts to make sense in this kind of context because it's all about that flow of energy.
That's why I liked it when you were saying it, and I wanted to sort of piggyback on it because I felt that's what I've been looking for. It's literally an energy thing, because I literally find myself when I'm in that place of doubt and worry and feeling confused and feeling like I don't know what to do next, I don't have the clarity, then sometimes I find myself on the couch flat on my back for an hour. And I was saying to my friend yesterday, I said, and I'm not even tired when I do that. It's like I'm not laying there because it's like I might have gotten up 2 hours before that, but now here I am on the couch and I'm there because the energy, I can't I don't feel like how to tap into the energy that moves worlds. The energy that would move me to create something, to get excited about something, to get happy about something, to find something that's fun, or to even trust that if I was to get off the couch and do anything that was fun, that it would begin to open the doors to the path I want to go. Because I really think that's a huge thing too, is that it doesn't have to be the project that I'm trying to accomplish. It could be anything I did that just changed the energy.
Well, this is true, yeah. And I think it's really great that we have, first of all, this option available to us to do this kind of thing. But secondly, we also have the experience of it. When you experience, at least I know I do, I imagine it's true for everybody else, when I experience that shifting forward because I somehow managed to allow more energy to flow, because I allowed myself to release some sort of resistance, because I allowed myself to even dare to think about some new thought, because I even just asked myself a basic question inside. I mean, that's a cool thing. We can ask ourselves inside, like, okay, I'm not feeling good. I want to feel good. Can you please help me feel good? What's it going to take for me to feel good? You can ask yourself things like that, and you can get answers. Mm-hmm. And the answers don't necessarily show up as words, as I'm learning. They show up in a lot of different ways. But nevertheless, they actually come fairly quickly. I mean, people want law of attraction, right? They want it to work really fast. Those kinds of questions, if you're willing to believe just long enough that you can actually receive the answers come. And that's a very cool thing. I can't say I get an answer every time I ask a question. Sometimes I ask a question, I get silence, which probably means I'm just pinching it off in some way, and the answer is actually there. I'm just not hearing it or seeing it or experiencing it. But nevertheless, if I don't worry about that, if I don't get all upset, oh my God, I didn't get the answer this time. If I just go with the fact that I am getting some answers or even an occasional answer, hey, celebrate the fact that you got an occasional answer, and they can show up in a lot of different ways, right? I mean, you got the answer on one occasion very recently by just walking out among the rocks in nature. The stillness of it became an answer to your request for energy. You didn't necessarily phrase your request that way, but that's what came through. And you felt yourself. You described it. You described it very eloquently about how you just felt stuff melting away. I don't remember what your exact words were, but there was like a release or a relief that was going on just because of that action. And through that relief was really you allowing more energy to flow inside of you, which was great. I mean, I love the way you did that.
Yeah. And I love the thing of following of having any piece of it is enough. If you just get any piece of happiness, you can have the whole thing. I remember this teacher that I was with for so many years from India, and he used to always say from the stage, he said, how did he put it? Something like, any piece of infinity will have tied to it, everything that you want. It's sort of like any piece of happiness that you can get a hold of can open up. I don't know how he used to phrase it exactly, but that was the essential understanding, was you don't need to have the whole thing for it to open up into the whole thing. It's like maybe like a fractal or something. You just get enough of it, and you start looking at that, and it can open up. The thing we said, if you have 9 things that aren't working in your life and one thing that is, and you focus on that one thing, it can pull up all the other 9 areas of your life. So you find one fun thing that you like to do, you're really feeling bummed out and you're really feeling confused and blocked or whatever, but there's a book you really do like reading, and you go get the book and you start reading it, and it turns you on, and it feels good. And out of that, if you have faith, if you allow, that can open up all the other doors to the stuff that you're feeling confused and stuck about. If you just let yourself enjoy that book, and then let that enjoyment lead to the next thing that you do and the next thing that you do.
Isn't it interesting too that when we do that, we end up with an experience that goes something like this? Okay, so I'm going to do this activity. I'm now doing this activity that I like, and I've got these 9 things that are just bugging the hell out of me. But I'm really starting to enjoy this activity, and I get into it, and yeah, I'm really enjoying this activity. let's see, what were those 9 things again? I can't remember what they were. Well, I can remember what one of them was, and so you can identify one. And if you really work at, trying to find where that bad energy was, you can find it. But my point is, it's amazing how quickly not only do they resolve, but they go away from your awareness. You can hardly even remember what they were. Do you have that experience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes those things seem important, like, I better not forget about this thing that is the thing that could be the problem here. I've got to remember, because I've got to solve that problem.
Right.
I've got to bypass that problem so that it doesn't affect my life in a negative way, because it really could if I'm not careful, or something like that, but the reality is, do you really need to keep that vibration alive, or do you need to just replace it with the vibration of what you want, of things that you want? And will that so-called negative fear, that thing that you're worried about, do you have to keep it alive at all? Because maybe you don't, and your positive things that you add to your life, or that you open up the doors to, are going to lead to everything you want, without that negative thing ever having to be considered again.
Oh yeah, I would say most often that's the case. Most often the stuff that we feel like we have to hang on to, we really have no need for at all. I mean, you're right. There are a few times where there's something, I got to remember what that solution is so that I can apply it the next time I get an opportunity to do it. But most of the stuff that hangs over our heads, it doesn't require us to do anything except just to let go of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that maybe there was an old paradigm that said, if you don't watch out for the things that could screw you up, they're going to screw you up.
Look out. You got to be careful. The universe is going to get you.
Right. You didn't prepare for that, and you should have. And, you better watch your back, because you can get devastated here.
Yeah.
And,
well, the good news is we don't have to be devastated. We were describing very nicely here how just doing things that we enjoy actually give us the energy we need to proceed with life, and to overcome obstacles, and to get answers to things that seem impossible, and so forth. It's truly remarkable how just getting into that better feeling place produces so many great results, but it does.
Your daily dose of happy.
Your daily dose of happy. Speaking of which, well, we got a couple minutes left. I want to make sure I get this in here. Most of our listeners are regular subscribers, and we love them. We love them dearly. We had that note from Rowena earlier that I shared earlier this week with you guys and here on the podcast, and that kind of thing just really picks us up. And so we're really happy about all the wonderful listeners we have. But there are also people who listen, who are listening new, and I know that from the numbers that I see, about something like 40% of the people who check us out each month are checking us out for the first time. And I really want to encourage those people. If you're one of those people and you're checking us out maybe for the first time, maybe it's your second episode, whatever, make it really easy on yourself, because you can subscribe and get all of these episodes sent directly to your phone or to your tablet or whatever device you're using to listen. And when you do that, then they're all on tap. There's like a whole list of them that you can play anytime you want to. So take a moment to become a subscriber. It's really easy. You just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. The instructions are right there. It takes about a minute. It's free. Doesn't cost you a thing. And oh boy, you get this reams of information, reams of entertainment, reams of daily doses of happy coming into your smartphone every day. So take a moment to subscribe and share. And Tom, for somebody who needs a little more personal attention, you're a coach. How do they reach out for you for a little coaching assistance?
Well, I give a free half hour where the person can take a little tour with coaching with me and bring something that they're concerned about, and talk with me for a half an hour of coaching, and see how I do my coaching. And they can go to my website, which is youarejoy.com. And that's the 3 words, youarejoy.com. And there's in the top menu, a thing to sign up for a free coaching session. And then from there, they can sign up for more if they like it.
Very good. Tom, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to talking to you on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Walt. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, we'll see you all next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.